Let's bring in Fran Townsend. She's a CBS News senior national security analyst and former Homeland Security advisor to President George W. Bush. Fran, we're so glad you're here because you have particular expertise in this area, right?
You couldn't be a better person to talk to at this point. So you actually dealt with the court that the Obama administration would have had to go to if they wanted a wiretap on anybody.
That's right. I ran what was then the office that handled the entire FISA process during the Clinton administration.
So then walk us through your reactions as of Monday morning on the weekend's events.
Sure. Well, you know, while all presidents retain the authority to actually order a surveillance, I have never known of a single president to do that after the passage of FISA. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act was passed in 1978 after a series of what they call the Frank Church hearings into intelligence abuses. And the whole idea was to regularize this process of surveillance inside the United States when it was for the national security purposes. And so it was really that authority was delegated to the Attorney General, who oversees the legal process. The FBI has to prepare a quite lengthy affidavit in support. An affidavit is a statement by an agent sworn under oath about the reasons that he needs this affidavit. It's then reviewed by the Justice Department, must be approved by the Justice Department before it's taken to a court. An independent judge has got to review it, and you must establish in this sort of a case probable cause to believe the individual you want to surveil is an agent of a foreign power.
So 1978, the FISA Act, this is Congress saying there were abuses of presidential power before. No more of that. We're going to make sure that it's taken out of the president's hands to a large extent. So when President Obama says no one from the White House and not myself, through a spokesman, ordered a wiretap, he could be telling the truth, and yet there could still be a wiretap.
There could be a wiretap. I think it's unlikely, based on the statements that have been made, particularly the former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, was quite specific. As the Director of National Intelligence, if there had been a FISA intelligence warrant targeting the president-elect, he certainly would have known it. And what he said yesterday was there was no such wiretap on the president-elect, now President Trump. But it stopped there. And what we don't know is, was there a wiretap, an intelligence wiretap, against others in the incoming administration? We've heard allegations of contacts between Russia and Paul Manafort, who had been the campaign manager, Carter Page, a foreign policy advisor, Mike Flynn, we know, resigned over this. And so is it possible to me that there may have been an established probable cause to put a wiretap on one of them? Yes, that is possible. Let's look at the timeline, though, for a minute. There have been news reports that there was a request for such a tap. In July, it was denied. It was narrowly focused, and it went back to the court in October. In October, it was granted. Individual wiretaps last 90 days. That would have expired sometime in January. We don't know if that would have been before or after the inauguration. And so it's possible, if there was such a wiretap and it was reauthorized, it's currently ongoing. And that brings us to, why wouldn't the Justice Department, at the FBI director's request, have denied any of this and gotten involved? And I think we must understand that if there's an ongoing counterintelligence investigation targeting someone in the Trump camp, the Justice Department's not going to want to get into the back and forth about it's not on Trump, because our next question is going to be, great, so who's it on? And they're not going to want to get into that.
So is that what we can glean from the silence that we're getting from the Justice Department? And can we glean anything from it?
Right. You know, it's hard to say what to glean from this. The other reading of this is, you know, the president's allegation was that there was a wire at Trump Tower. Yeah. Now, we know many of the people I mentioned, for example, Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn, were working in Trump Tower at the time.
For weeks.
So it's possible that there was a wire on one of them. It's also, there are other tenants in Trump Tower, including Chinese banks and Russian banks. Is it possible that there was a wiretap on somebody else in Trump Tower? Any one of these could have incidentally collected, is what it's called, incidental collection, the president-elect, if he had called one of them. And no doubt if the president was accidentally collected when he was calling someone who was the subject of a wiretap, he would have been notified, and I imagine quite angry about it.
Right.
So we should sneak in a question here about something that is hard policy. The travel ban is apparently going to be re-announced today, a revised travel ban. The prior one affected these 7 countries. Iraq has been taken off the list, reportedly. What do you make of that adjustment?
Well, Look, part of this is we rely on our allies around the world to do some of the initial vetting to help us vet the people that we're going to grant visas to. You know, in Iraq, we have an ally that we work with quite closely. We work very closely with their military. There are people there that have been given what's called special interest visas. Those are our translators who've worked with American troops. No one's more carefully vetted. And I think that the president and his team probably have a higher degree of confidence about the vetting in Iraq and felt confident enough that they would take them off the ban.
All right, Fran Townsend, thank you so much.
Thank you.